digital asset investor featuring great kid of Ripple. Let's go ahead and play this. It comes from TikTok, but it's a short little thing, and then we'll get into the rest of the outline here in a bit. Please, again, smash that like. Here we go. Grab your decent wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
Take speculation out of it. What do you think is going to make that XRP price rise?
Well, there's a limited amount of XRP in the world. I mean, 100 billion sounds like a big number. But look, what is XRP competing with? Right now in the correspondent banking system, banks have to deposit money, nostro, vostro, all around the world. So there's pots of liquidity so that things can move from one silo to another. The way that all works is with pre-funded liquidity. And all that pre-funded liquidity happens in all the different fiat currencies of the world. So if you really want to be able to service money all around and move it, you've got to have all these pre-funded pots and all these different currencies. But if you could agree on one currency and one that you could replenish, not just 9 to 5, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you'd need less liquidity, because you could see that when you're getting low, you can restock. And how long does it take to restock? 3 seconds. How much does it cost to restock? Less than a penny. And so the advantage of XRP is it's a much more efficient method of moving liquidity around. It would be like having an engine that ran on a teacup of oil rather than a gallon of oil. Everything still needs liquidity. Pre-funding is good, but when you can top up your pre-funding in 3 seconds, you need a lot less oil in the engine for the engine to work well. And that's what Ripple brought to the market.
Are you saying that a lot of that nostro money one day is going to be in XRP? Is that the ultimate goal?
Oh, it's going to be replaced. It's going to be replaced by XRP. And so that just that demand for the thimble of oil, like that thimble is pretty big. And so if all the banks need just enough XRP to handle their liquidity requirements, and you also have money transmitters doing it, and maybe even just major corporations are doing it as well, they're just posting their own liquidity around. Everybody needs less liquidity than they needed nostro and vostro fiat currency, but that's still a lot of practical need for XRP. And so I think Ripple's done some of those calculations. If each bank around the world and each other regulated financial institution had just enough XRP for their liquidity needs, that would create amazing practical demand for XRP all around the world.
When I was going through the research, I said to myself, all right, these guys, they have a valid point here. Like some guys would point like, well, this says RippleNet. Okay, RippleNet is not XRP. That's RippleNet. And so, or like these other things, well, you know, there's Ripple. What about actual FedNow using actually like XRP? That's the bottom line, right? It's like that's a valid statement, you know, smart contracts. And if you understand smart contracts, that's like, well, yeah, it's not that we want people to be partnered with Ripple, but we want to see that XRP actually is being used. That's the bottom line, right? So I put myself in other people's shoes and I said, all right, that's valid. Let's find out the juicy stuff in that regard. Let's jump into the outline. Smash that like. You guys are getting tired of me saying that. And if anything, when I'm done doing this segment, maybe I will have earned the like. Well, whatever the case be, I'm definitely going to earn it this time, because you know what? It was the itch that needed to be scratched. So let's show you what I'm talking about. All right. So we're going to start things off from this guy. His name is Dark Defender. He mentions a few things here. A lot of us know about this, but if you're new to this, we want to respect the new people. It was 8 months back they asked about ISO 222 migration and whether FedNow dates are correct or not. And we're going to check mark some things here, okay? So XRP relisted. Lawsuits is basically a success. Big players are in. You know, up next is FedNow. Decision aligned with the plan. This was data all the way back originally on, you know, January 12th, 2022. Lawsuit ongoing for Ripple, check. Exchange halting XRP, check. On the other hand, CBDC test runs ended for many countries, check. ISO 222 migration of the Euro system, March 2023. Yeah, right? Well, you know about this, check. FedNow instant payment active July 2023. Obvious retail out. the big players are in. I mean, we even see some of the big players, do we not? The BlackRocks of the world, you know, Fidelity, Vanguard, you name it. We're all paying attention to this. Bitcoin ETFs, all paying attention to this stuff. There's a lot of focus on just BTC, but there should be focus on especially Ripple, right? XRP, FedNow. We have discussed the exact dates for SWIFT, ISO 222 migration, and FedNow. Right, everything's checked. March and July. What's next? Are we all on track? I think so. So I want to start things off with this next part, and this comes from Kitco. Kitco does a lot of, believe it or not, Jasmine information as well, so shout out to them. They state, Federal Reserve reveals the 57 companies cleared to use FedNow, clearing them to begin using the new instant payment system once it launches July, right? Because before it was like, when is it going to be in July? We got the date, right? Buy the rumor, sell the news. Well, a little bit different here. FedNow was developed, of course, by the Federal Reserve banks as a nationwide instant payment service that operates around the clock. Hence why you heard Jerome Powell mention 24/7, 365. We got something to do it. And he's bragging about it, right? But in reality, what's up with this? So early adopter organizations are primarily composed of financial institutions that facilitate the sending and receiving of transactions and service providers that provide transaction activity. They said total 41 financial institutions. So some of them are very, very big. You have the JP Morgans, the BNY Mellons, Wells Fargo, US Bank Corp, on and on and on. 15 institutions that provide processing services. And here's some of the key ones I don't want you to forget. Finastra. If anything, don't forget that you heard Finastra. There's going to be another one we're going to talk about here in a bit. This part, we are on track for the FedNow service launch with a strong cohort of financial institutions and service providers of all sizes in the process of completing the final round of readiness testing. God, I would hope so. Said Ken Montgomery, Vice President of Federal Reserve Bank of Boston and FedNow Program Executive. Look what he says real quick, and then I swear we'll get into the juicy stuff. With go live nearing financial institutions and their industry partners, we should be confident in moving forward with plans to join the network of organizations participating in the FedNow service. The platform for innovation, the FedNow service, is intended to support multiple use cases, such as account-to-account transfer, requests for payment, bill payments, and many others. Federal Reserve plans to work with the on-board new financial institutions later in 2023 after the initial launch. Once the system has been tested and is basically live in that quote-unquote environment, the central bank basically wants all of the United States, 10,000 plus financial institutions plugged into what, guys? The FedNow system. On this page, there's two key ones I want you to basically pay attention to. And this is reference from the Federal Reserve, FBRB Services Org, announcing organization certified as quote unquote ready for the FedNow service. All right. June 29, 2023. So again, not that long ago. Okay. There's participants, BNY Mellon, and all this stuff. All that stuff is great, but I'm going to jump down to the bottom. Key area of concern and focus. All right. I feel like I'm still lecturing a class because I always tell kids to take the notes. So like Biggie Smalls, relax and take notes. Yes, take notes. Finastra, like I mentioned before, service provider. And the other one you definitely want to pay attention to, I should have mentioned this first, is ACI Worldwide Corp. Remember these two, ACI Worldwide Corp, Finastra. Easy to remember, right? I wasn't going to have you remember 5, 6, 7, 10. Just those two. That's easy to remember. Ingrain it into your head. Okay? All right. Let's jump into a little bit more about this. So we're going to take you to the CMC page about this, and it states Federal Reserve Bank of America embraces Ripple for real-time settlement platform. Will XRP price soar to new all-time high? That's what some people, all of us are wondering. Like, some people are saying, nope, this is a perfect case. I'll buy the rumor, sell the news. Even what's tagged here, if you notice, you have Metal Blockchain. You have, for instance, XRP and Stellar. All three of these are tagged. Now, why would that be? Just ask yourself that. Why would that be? As we get further into this outline, I want to show you guys this. And shout out to this guy, Chad Steingraber. All right. So, you know, there's this thing about the Federal Reserve Bank of America embraces Ripple for real-time settlement platform. Will XRP price soar? Right? We just stated that. It says Ripple and Stellar Lumens offer blockchain-based cross-border payment systems. FedNow capabilities may present a competitive challenge to these entities. Now he's got this thread, and this thread is worth mentioning. Look what's highlighted here on the top part. ISO 222 enabled real-time settlement. We were talking about ISO 222 for the longest time. We need full implementation, especially here in the United States, by, was it November 2025? But look at some of the providers that we talked about earlier, the service providers. ACI Worldwide powers FedNow. They are a Ripple partner. That's not it. Let's get into a little bit more. As we get further into this, I'll show you this part. Finastra powers FedNow Ripple partner. So let's talk about ACI Worldwide for just a brief moment, okay? And if anything, some of you guys know about this, but I would say the majority don't. It says the good news reaching us is that ACI Worldwide, a universal payments company that powers e-payment for over 5,100 organizations around the world, has hinted that it's supporting Ripple's real-time payment system. Now, we got to give you a date, right? Got to give you a date. Is it hinting it recently? No, it's not hinting it recently. This was all the way back on October 3rd, 2019. States ACI Worldwide deploys Ripple solution. So if they are going to deploy this Ripple solution or hinted this all the way back then, what's happening here recently, right? Great question. It says on its platform, ACI Worldwide touted that it has over 1,000 of the largest financial institutions and intermediaries, coupled with thousands of global merchants relying on its platform to execute around 14 trillion daily securities and payment transactions. But we were talking specifically about a certain project, right, that's partnered with Ripple, yeah, and Stellar. Remember this? I'm sure you do. It was an AI company, remember? And if anything, through Stellar, they received something like $90,000+ in regards to a community fund, right? But the key thing is it's partnered with both Stellar and Ripple. And the daily volume that they can do was 100+ billion, okay? And if anything, I will chop up that video because it was a good segment, and I'll get it out to you guys. But this one, it was, I can't even prophesy some of this stuff, and I won't do that. I will never give any blasphemy or anything like that. But my point is, like, yesterday we're talking about billions. I said, we currently at millions. We got to have something that's going to get in the billions. But I said, even yesterday, watch out for when we get to the talk about the trillions, because we understand there's no way that this stuff will only be worth like, 71 cents, $1, $5, $10. Like, if it's moving all that money daily, it's going to be worth a lot, right? So again, I'm going to read this one more time, and I'm going to get to some of the good stuff. Global merchants rely on its platform to execute around 14 trillion daily securities and payment transactions. While informing users of its platform, ACI says it supports around 9% of global SWIFT traffic and approximately 30% in the US, adding that it offers its outstanding services to banks that want to leverage SWIFT's Global Payment Initiative GPI. That's why we always reference ISO 222, because we understand that eventually we'll have full implementation. SWIFT is going to upgrade their MT messaging standard to the new messaging standard of ISO 222. And what cryptocurrencies are involved with that? It's worth paying attention to. We've been talking about this for the longest time. Now, so this is not the end of what I'm trying to state, but I'm going to definitely reference it. It says, speaking of Ripple, ACI states that it supports real-time schemes around the world, adding that banks through its platform can deploy real-time payment systems in support of SWIFT, FIN, GPI, DLT, for example, Ripple, wire, and immediate payments. Remember the guy at the beginning? Shout again to Brian Dowie. Why are we not talking more about Nostra Vostra? Why are we not talking more about on-demand liquidity, ODL? Ripple has been winning big firms. Think about this, guys. Winning big firms and banks to its side recently with the launch of Ripple's XRapid. Amidst other tools, Ripple is growing at a very fast pace and disrupting the cross-border payment industry beyond expectations. At the moment, big banks are now, and I'll highlight this, deploying Ripple tools for payments purposely to reduce the cost of transaction while also increasing the speed at which payment is delivered. And what about the ACI connection? Because it was referenced, especially on the FedNow site. ACI and Ripple XRP are two giants that basically coexist, are they not? The unsung relationship between Ripple and ACI is one big thing in the history of the blockchain firm, for that fact that ACI worldwide, remember I told you, write that down, and Swift are global partners, with the two depending on each other for seamless payment. God, it sounds beautiful, don't it? A little bit more. What about Ripple and the Swift? Was there going to be any partnership? Could they ever officially get that out? Well, some people stated that, like, when you connected the dots, that's a real thing, and I would agree. But it states, the lingering rumor that Ripple and Swift will announce a partnership died during the Sibos conference. The rumor was halted after there was no announcement on the partnership between the two. It says Swift mentioned that its customers are not prepared for the deployment of Ripple's distributed ledger technology. But basically speaking, when was this published? October 3rd, 2019. And what has happened since then? We already connected all those dots. All right, so that's ACI worldwide, right? And we showed you that reference basically from FedNow, okay? So let's get into the next part, right? Because got to reference the next part. So as we jump into this, shout out to this guy. He is ISO 222. Let's do it. A real hit queue. And Mike Cornwell, I think, retweets a lot of his stuff and so on, get tagged on it and so on. Ripple Partner supports Thailand ISO 222 migration with bulk payments. Now, next part to write down, if you're into this, I don't know, maybe you're not into this. You're like, who cares? I'm just watching you, Max. I'm chatting amongst my guys and I'm having a good time, whatever the case be. Okay. All right. You got to do what you got to do. All I ask is that you smash the like. ISO 222 migration with bulk payments. Write down bulk payments. Plus real-time payments. For instance, Ripple uses ODL. And if some of the doubters, don't just mention RippleNet, Max. Don't just do that, because I want to see that they mention XRP. Well, boom. And XRP for bulk payments. If you want to nerd out, you can go to the PDF, but let's blow this up. Boom. Bulk funding. The following diagram represents the use case for ODL bulk payments covering both remittances and bank-to-bank payments. Sending institution, you see the breakdown, right? Sender wallet, sender XRP wallet, sender receiver wallet, receiving institution, sender account, beneficiaries. If anything, I might do a whole thread on this, to be honest. I'm going to be honest, I think I will. So, yeah, Ripple deposits XRP into the sender's designated wallet. The sender retrieves and accepts a quote using RippleNet API endpoints. I know some people were saying, oh, that's RippleNet. It's not XRP. Hear me out, because I've been there. And I've been with you guys. I understand the whole concept of the smart contracts and stuff like that. I'm with you guys, I swear. RippleNet transfer XRP to sender's wallet to receive the wallet, or receiver's wallet, excuse me. The receiver adds fiat, as in cash funds and so on, to the sender's account that will later be dispersed to beneficiaries. Are you still with me? The receiver liquidates XRP for fiat currency. Ripple invoices the sender for initiated payments in aggregate. The sender sends payments or payment instructions to the receiver via RippleNet. I mean, you got to keep in mind, this is all super fast. Shout out to Coach JV. He's always saying the speed of light, but in reality, it is. All right. But here's the breakdown. The receiver disperses funds to beneficiaries from the sender's funding account. Now, as we get more into it, and I'll blow this part up because it's going to be really hard for you guys to see it. Let's pull it up on a different page. All right. All right. Let's just see if you can see it. All right. I wish it was a little bit bigger, but that's the biggest I can make it. Jumping back to ACI worldwide, and I swear we're going to get into the juicy part of Finastra. Again, smash that like. ACI worldwide has a successful track record of implementing, I know this is not highlighted, but I'm going to read this part. Critical real-time ISO 222 payment ecosystems and central infrastructures across APAC countries. It provides the central infrastructure for Indonesia's BiFast, for instance. I know we're talking about, for instance, earlier Taiwan, but stay with me. One of the world's largest real-time payment initiatives, which will incorporate 135 banks as well as merchants. Let's face it, guys, a lot higher than that now. And payment service providers when fully implemented. Again, hence why we talk about ISO 222. It needs to be fully implemented, because then when it comes to the people, let's face it, complaining like the price isn't moving. Right. We haven't had full implementation yet. You still have the opportunity, despite what the mainstream will say, that you missed the boat on Ripple. You didn't miss the boat on Ripple. You're just paying a little bit more for it. It's still a great price. So, gotta wait for this to be fully implemented. But look what it states here. The company also powers the real-time central infrastructure and the entire bank ecosystem of Malaysia's real-time retail payments platform. Why is Max referencing this? I'm referencing it because if these guys, ACI Worldwide, was able to get it done with numerous other banks for similar use cases, then why not FedNow? And why not Ripple's XRP? Yes. Additionally, ACI Worldwide supports, listen to this, Thailand's national ITMX with real-time ISO 222 bulk payments alongside many real-time payment schemes across the region. Shout out to, our brother Rafael Santos in the Philippines and some of the other guys, Singapore, and also Australia. All right, I think we're going to get into this part about Finastra, if I'm not mistaken. So this thing, right, I decided to somewhat nerd it out, right, not completely. ACI Worldwide partners with the Philippine Secure Bank. ACI Worldwide is the APAC leader in real-time payments transformation. Their robust solutions go from powering countrywide real-time payment ecosystems, like I mentioned before, to interconnecting cross-border real-time payment networks. Doesn't that literally sound like Ripple's XRP all the way? And enabling the integration of different types of payments into a single, unified, intelligent, cloud-native payment hub. By utilizing ACI Worldwide's technology, Security Bank will be able to bring new products and services to customers faster, and new payment alternatives seamlessly and cost-effectively to its existing core infrastructure, and tap into ACI Worldwide's payment ecosystem, APAC region. According to this lady, Leslie Chu, she's the Senior Vice President, Managing Director of ACI Worldwide. Look at this quote. We look forward to Security Bank providing personalized digital experiences that can cater to ongoing change, complexity, and uncertainty. ACI Worldwide has a successful track record of implementing critical, and here's the ISO 222 part, ISO 222 real-time payments, ecosystems, and central infrastructures across APAC countries. Again, like why I referenced the whole 135 banks. And by the way, like they said, waiting for it to be fully implemented along with those merchants. This part about bulk payments. It states, additionally, ACI Worldwide supports Thailand. Now we're going to Thailand. National ITMX with real-time ISO 222 bulk payments alongside many real-time payment schemes across the region, including, like I mentioned before, the Philippines, Singapore, and Australia. So here's the thing. You got that example, all right? And here's the icing on the cake when it comes to ACI Worldwide. Because we want to, some people are going to be like, well, those are great examples, but what about worldwide? Or what about globally? Yeah, absolutely. It literally says it. Globally, ACI Worldwide covers approximately one-third of the countries that offer real-time payment services, reaching about 1.8 billion people, not just a few million, right? Not hundreds of millions, 1.8 billion people. How many people live in the world currently? I think it's a little over 7 billion people. They themselves cover 1.8 billion people. We talk about Ripple's XRP and like getting mass adoption, that flip of the switch. 1.8 billion people is nothing to bat an eye at. Like I said, served by various organizations, including central governments, payment networks, banks, financial institutions, and fintech companies. That's big. And to pound it home just a little bit more, because we're on the topic of FedNow, ACI Worldwide is a global leader in mission-critical real-time payment software. Does that sound familiar? Does that not sound familiar? Our proven, secure, and scalable, because we're all talking about scalability, can it scale? I have to have the same user experience as you, If I make a payment at 2 o'clock in the morning, I might work a graveyard shift. Shout out to all you guys that work graveyard shift, right? I've had to do it, especially at the post office. But I need to be able to use this app or whatever the case be. I have to have the same user experience as Joe Schmo and Billy Bob and whoever, right? If you have no scalability, you're sunk. You're stuck in the mud. So basically speaking, yes, look what's mentioned. Our proven, secure, and scalable software solutions enable leading corporations. Geez, I wonder what leading corporations those are at this point. Fintechs process and manage digital payments, power omni-commerce payments, present and process bill payments. My God, and fraud and risk. So it's a combination of speed, security, all the things we've been talking about for well over a year. Shout out to anybody that's just now joining our community. We combine our global footprint with a local presence to drive, and again, here it is a little bit more, real-time digital transformations of payments and freaking commerce. How about the part about the United States? They have trademarks, one of the subsidiaries in the United States. For anybody that's doubting, is there any U.S. connection? Literally says it right there. This is why it's good to read some of these. I don't know. You want to call this a white paper? Call it whatever you want. Now, I know that's a lot to take in. Let's jump into the part about Finastra. FedNow is a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it. All right. We talked about the previous one, right? Which basically was ACI Worldwide. Now let's talk about Finastra. Because you know what? Ripple partners with world's third largest fintech firm, Finastra. When? The same time period, roughly, of ACI Worldwide. Back when? 2019. What you see here is this was data on October 16, 2019. London-based Finastra, the third largest financial service technology firm in the world, partnered, of course, with Ripple back then to grant its customers access to the RippleNet blockchain network. Okay, I mean, that's impressive, but some people are going to be like, well, so what? I just want to see the part about XRP. As reported by FinTech Times on October 16th, at least 2019, the cooperation between the two firms will see Ripple's over 200 existing clients reciprocally access Finastra's extensive banking network. Their banking network, which includes 48 of the top 50 banks globally. Now, of course, we're going to continue reading on this. So I'm going to take it to the Cointelegraph part, and I have already summarized this. I already read over this, so I'm not reading the whole thing verbatim. I'm just going to read this part verbatim because this is the juicy stuff. According to the FinTech Times report, listen to this, guys. Finastra customers and existing RippleNet partners will be able to transact cross-border with end-to-end tracking and transparent oversight of fees, delivery time, and status. Customers, and here's the juicy part. Here's the freaking juicy part. Customers will be hosted on Ripple's cloud solution in order to improve speed, as well as having the option to use Ripple's XRP powered on-demand liquidity solution, the ODL. Offers, as we know, a 3-second settlement time for international payments. Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. There you go. And if you also want to read this, it comes from that person. Senior Vice President, FMS Finastra, said that Finastra's collaboration with Ripple reflects the company's belief that the future of finance is basically open. Pretty cool stuff. That concludes the Ripple's XRP coverage. And you better believe with those type of connections, for some people are saying, well, still not Ripple. Understand the concept of what, guys? Side chains, okay? You don't have to be the one to necessarily do it on your own, but you can have partners that will use your, in this case, ODL to get the job done and actually use XRP. Again, back to the first video, the concept of Nostra Vostra. Share what you think. Are you still not a believer in it? Do you feel as though that not going for it, it's just XLM because they have the smart contracts? I get where you're coming from. But again, I'm not going to dismiss Ripple anymore when it comes to this. No way. I own both, and I'm glad to do so. Will it be a perfect case of buy the rumor, sell the news? I don't know. But we'll see what happens. And then, if anything, I'm glad to bring it to you guys. So please smash that like, and thank you for tuning in.